Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. In this video, we're going to briefly discuss shareholder meetings and director meetings in the context of doing business here in the Kingdom. In a prior video, I discussed specifically corporate secretarial services, general corporate services, as can be provided by a firm such as ourselves, and basically what that entails. I strongly encourage those who are interested in this topic to go ahead and check out that video as well, as they kind of are linked. Basically, shareholder meetings and director meetings are exactly what they sound like. There are, in my opinion, I always kind of look at Thai corporations as like they're kind of bifurcated into two types of actors. One type are the directors, and the other type are the shareholders. In a way, the shareholders could be directors simultaneously, or they may just be passive shareholders. They just own some shares in a company. It's sitting there, and they don't really want to know the day-to-day, but they own a chunk of that equity, and obviously that needs to be legally accounted for. That being said, directors have different obligations and liabilities with respect to the company and the outside world than, say, shareholders. Shareholders, their liability is much more limited, and limited in the sense that we think of limited liability in a Western context. Although, again, Thailand has specific laws and rules. I am not a Thai attorney. I'm an American attorney. My counterparts here at the firm assist in such matters directly. I strongly recommend, if those who are interested in talking to one of our Thai attorneys, I strongly recommend doing so for the specifics on these matters. I'm just here to provide an overview and sort of liaise as to the broad strokes. But that being said, yeah, there's sort of a bifurcated set of roles. Shareholders here, directors here. Some companies will only have one director, and for those kind of companies, directors meetings will not necessarily be able to get things done. In certain contexts, say for example banking matters, certain other types of matters where one's dealing with another corporate counterparty, for various due diligence and just for making sure the proper records are maintained, directors meetings or shareholders meetings may be required depending on the type of activity the corporation is trying to undertake. For this reason, secretarial services are necessary. Again, refer to our other video on this channel for more on that. But for purposes of this, in certain circumstances, a lone director or maybe one of many directors who has binding capability for the company, and there are different types of directors. There are directors who can bind the company, and there are directors who do not have signing authority to bind the company. In any event, let's say you've got a binding director, depending on what that individual is doing out there with respect to the company, he or she may or may not need sort of corporate secretarial services done in order to do whatever it is they're doing. If a corporate director wants to go out and hire a taxi, you don't need a directors meeting or a shareholder meeting to go ahead and undertake that activity, or to go ahead and buy, certain sort of just cost of doing business type of expenses, desks, tables, maybe even computers, pens, pencils, to go ahead and get a business up and going. A lone director or a single director probably is not going to need a lot of formalistic corporate secretarial, shareholder meeting minutes, director meeting minutes. They're not going to need that under those circumstances. But that being said, there are certain things that you will need shareholder meeting minutes on, most notably things like banking. But if you've got multiple directors on a company, sometimes a directors meeting is enough from a formal standpoint to go ahead and get the documentation necessary to undertake whatever the corporate undertaking is. So it's going to be case specific. Again, corporate service providers are going to be very helpful to be able to provide some insight into what is and is not necessary in this context. But that being said, it should be noted that shareholder meetings tend to happen rather more infrequently, and they tend to happen with more in what I would kind of call bigger matters relating to the company. But director meetings may be held rather more frequently, and although they may provide the sort of formalistic documentation necessary to undertake certain types of business activity, those meetings may not be enough to deal with some of the, most notably things like an audited financial statement that's issued once a year, on a given company, generally speaking, you're going to need full authority from the overall company to go ahead and issue such a thing. But it should be noted that, again, some of this is very case specific. It's a good idea to go ahead and hire or to go ahead and consult with corporate services and corporate legal professionals here in Thailand to go ahead and ascertain what one's company is going to need and how often it's going to be necessary, how often it's going to be required to undertake these sort of secretarial tasks, and the administrative costs of doing so.